I'm CK. Tonight we're going to do a little kit from Amazon. Hopefully it's better than the one I did last night, which I deleted the videos of because the kit was so terrible I didn't even want to talk about it. Hopefully this one will be more fun than that. This is a soldering kit, practice, got 5 retro games in it from Vogertime. We'll dive into it, see how much fun it's going to be to make and then use. Hope you enjoy the video. Here's the box. This was about $25 on Amazon, which is at the high end of these little soldering kits, soldering practice kits, but I figured may as well. Look, for 25 bucks you get an actual piece of paper as an instruction manual. So the game kit is composed of a microcontroller, LED dot matrix screens, digital tube, what that means, keyboard buzzer, and power supply circuit. And the microprocessor is the core of the whole circuit. Please note, we'd like to send you a detailed PDF version of the manual that we made it with 100% effort. Please contact us at yogertimesupport@foxmail.com. I generally don't do that because they don't need my email address to spam me or sell it or do something like that. Okay, here's the features, here's the tools required, here's the schematic, which is really tiny, but it's okay. Component list, and on the back looks like the LED is a panel. I'm not going to solder the individual LEDs. That's too bad, because I like soldering, that's why I do this. So in the bag, inside the box, got one bag of switches and keycaps, screws, standoffs, and that's about it. Okay, so here's the processor board they were talking about. So let me zoom down a little bit. So it's what I call semi-surface mount. So the processor is full surface mount, and they've already mounted that on the board, but the board has these little scalloped connector areas that match the pinouts of this, and these are a little bit of a tricky business to solder on, but they're not as bad as trying to solder that processor yourself if you don't have experience. So this is a step on the way, in my opinion, a step on the way to learning surface mount by using these. Put that there. And here we have a battery box. So apparently we can power it with either USB 5 volt or that looks like it'll be like a 4.5 volt of battery power. Here's a case, which is nice. The only problem with these cases is you got to peel the paper off the plastic, which is not hard, it's just a pain. Here's the circuit board. Now I will say this, one reason why this kit costs more than others is this is a good quality surface board. I mean circuit board. The traces are all really nice. All the component holes are through-hole plated, which is again very unusual for this level of kit. There aren't many components. There's one electrolytic cap. There's this, which I believe is the USB connector they're using. I'm going to assume. No, that's the USB connector. This is something else. I don't know what that is. And there's a couple of switches here. Then the directional switches. Then here is the where the LED and warning, installation of lattice blockheads needs to be aligned. Make sure your blockheads are aligned. So that's a good, that's promising. That's a very good little circuit board. And here is the digital display. Here's an LED matrix. And we've got two of them. And they'll fit here. I'm going to see if you can get them wrong. They go in the other way. So I'm not sure how we determine which way is up. But we'll figure that out as we go along. So I don't know where that electrolytic cap they made. Oh, there it is. It's in there. So there's not much to this. So that's interesting. So we'll get the soldering iron heated up, and we'll start putting this guy together. I read a little further along, and the difference on these LED matrices is there's a little protrusion here, but not here. And that protrusion goes that way, so they're easy to figure out. Now, the first thing we're going to do, we're going to put this little surface mount carrier board on it. Now, these contacts right here are not used during this build, and also you'll see there's two small capacitors on this board too. So, how do we get this set up right? Well, I'll show you two ways you can tell. First off, the microprocessor goes in this cutout, and the two little CD capacitors go in this cutout. The other way you can tell, well, the arrow is kind of a giveaway, but you'll notice at this end of the board, this is the last lead, and this lead goes one further rank up, so you can't get it wrong that way. Now, to solder these, I am going to use my thinnest solder. This is 0.025 diameter, where my normal is 0.031. So, as we always do with components like this, the first thing is to simply get it all aligned and get one pin set. Then we can go to town. And we want to do alignment both vertically and horizontally to make sure we're over the solder pads. And to help me do this, I'm going to grab some soft-jawed locking tweezers. I'm going to come up this way, and I'm going to grip it like that, and then I'm going to get another set, and I don't have another set handy. Let me go get one. I'm going to use another set to grab the other end. Now I'm going to slide it around with the tweezers gripping it to get it exactly where I want it to be. With the little cutouts right over their corresponding pads. I'm sorry if I'm getting my head in the shot on this, but I've got to look directly down on it. And it can take a little bit of tweaking and sliding, but it's worth it to get it just right. Okay. So now we're going to do one leg. Fill that little crevice with solder and it'll bleed over onto the pad, which is great. So we've got one leg done. That means we can take off the tweezers. However, just for safety and security, I'm going to do the opposite leg also. And there we go. Now it's secure and it's not going to be going anywhere. So I can take the locking tweezers off, put these in my ready rack and put the other ones back in the toolbox. Now I said I wasn't going to use any flux. I just changed my mind because I want to show you what I would do with it. This is, I'm using Chip Quick rosin paste flux that I got from Amazon. There's lots of flux out there. I'm not particularly wedded to this brand. It just happens to be what I've been using. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that these pads, solder on these pads, don't bleed across, of course. Now the board itself resists solder, so that's a good start. However, to make your day go even better, first off you get the cat hair out of the project. Then you take some of this solder and flux and just rub it all along here. Spread it out. Don't worry about using too much because it's not harmful and you can clean it up really easily with a little isopropyl alcohol after you're done. Now what this does, and this is what surface mount machines do for crying out loud, is it keeps the solder on the metal surfaces, not on the circuit board, and it won't bridge. You'll watch here in a second, I'm getting the excess flux off my pointy thing, even though I'm just going to use it again in a second. So now, with the flux on there as a soldering aid, we can pretty much go to town pretty quickly. Even though that's not coming down on the pad. There we go. Yep. I've got to move my light, I'm getting too much glare. See, I'm just kind of feeding the solder in the middle of all that, and the flux is keeping it from bleeding between the points. The flux and the circuit board, I'm going to say. The characteristics of the circuit board to resist solder are also very important here. That's why, again, I was impressed with the quality of this circuit board. And again, you adjust your positioning of the soldering iron to what you're comfortable with. I'm showing you a couple of different grips. They all have their advantages and disadvantages, but it's mainly what you're comfortable with. Just keeps the solder away from its peers, stays where it needs to be. Now the only thing, and I've said this during true surface mount also, the only problem I ever have with surface mount is it's often hard to know if you've actually got a good connection. With through-hole components, you can put your meter on it and see if you've got conductivity. On surface mount, that's a lot more challenging, also to see if you're bridged, but I'll show you what I do here in a minute after I get this side done. I'm going to go ahead and do the other side, but I'm going to do it without commentary, and I'll put the playback on fast when I edit this. One thing I did want to mention is you will be leaning over when you're working on this kind of stuff. I'm a little further back just because I don't want to get in the way of the camera, but you'll probably have your head or face right over it. And as you noticed, the flux does smoke a good bit, or steam, or whatever you want to call it. So you should do this with good ventilation. I personally don't care, so I don't bother with that, but you're not my age, so probably. So get a good ventilation, even a simple little fan that, you know, one of those 2-inch fans that some people put on their dashboard or on their desk is enough to keep the fumes from going up in your face. But since I'm usually smoking a pipe when I'm doing this, it doesn't matter to me. So I was talking about testing. So I've got the meter set on beep when you detect continuity. So what I like to do is I'll touch the outside of the pad and then the mini board itself, and that is telling me that those are conductive, so they're soldered appropriately. I had one here as I was cleaning it. This one right here I'm a little concerned about, so let me see, is it conducting? No, it is not. Look at that. So we've got to fix that one up. And you can see that I was able to, as I looked at it closely while I was cleaning it, I could see it probably was not soldered completely. So just give it a quick eyeballs is a good idea, and then solder it up, and I think we're fine this time. Let's see. Yep, there goes my water heater. God bless America. So all those are good. I'm going to turn the cameras off and wait for my water heater to go through its cycle. So the water heater's done. During the time it was on, I took the paper off the case pieces. So one other thing you'll want to know is if you've bridged, if one of the contacts is connected to the other. So again, you know how to do this. Just go along, touch them both, see if there's any connectivity, and then of course look at the connections to see if you can see anything obvious, and we don't, so that board should be on fine. I'm going to back the camera up a little bit again. Now we're into the bag of other parts. And as I said, the instructions have a QR code to a video showing how to solder that. I didn't look at the video, but you may want to. Now we're going to do our buttons. Easy click-ins. These are kind of loose. They don't click, so we're going to have to support them while we solder them. So I probably shouldn't do all four at once, should I? Why don't I just do one at a time there, Chief? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the board rested and the switch between two fingers on the back. And then I'm going to do one pin. Take a look, and it's not quite flush. As you may be able to see, one of the corners is up, so that's easy. We put pressure on it and then heat that leg again. And you can feel it go flat. And now it's up on the other side. I don't know why it's doing that. Why are you doing that? There we go. Now it's completely flat. And we'll do that with the other switches. And I'm going to switch back to my thicker solder, not very much thicker, but thicker. The only reason why I switched back is because I don't have to feed as much. I don't have to push forward as much solder to get a joint done. Okay, double check. Everything's flat. Everything's flat, so I'll go ahead and solder all the legs. Switches are all on. Double check to make sure they work. They all work. Okay, now we're going to put the micro USB connector on, and it goes over here. Like so. Now back here we've got a couple of things going on. First, we've got the support legs that you want to get good solder on, because that's what mechanically keeps the connector there. Then on the USB connector itself, you only want to do the outer two pins, because they're the pins that carry power. The inner two are for data. And on this board, appropriately enough, only the two leads you need to solder have silver solder pads. So it's easy for you to tell what you need to do. The first thing I'm going to do is solder down one, I'm clicking the button, solder down one of these legs, the support legs. And as I'm doing that, of course, the USB connector gets hot and I burn my finger, like I always do. Now, for switches, for connectors like this USB connector, don't spare the solder. Anything that interacts with you, with the human operator, is going to take stresses, mechanical stresses, and the solder is the only thing that's keeping this connector in place. There's no screws, so don't hesitate to use a good bit of solder on those connection points. Now let me do the actual power. And we're good there. feels solid. Feels solid. Now we're going to do the electrolytic cap, and it's clearly marked with positive, and clearly marked with positive and negative, and as you know, the positive leg is longer, the negative leg has a stripe associated with it, so it's easy to get correct. And this board has both plus sign and a little indicator of where the stripe goes, which is very nice. Now we're going to put on the self-lock switch. I'm not sure what that means yet, but we'll figure it out. Now this has got, as you can see, the circuit board has a little indicator saying there's a gap here on the switch itself. That's where the gap is, so we know how to put the switch in. And of course we're going to double check it, because what it looked like a second ago might change, you never know. Same thing, make sure it's all flat and flush. Yep. That's all good. Now we'll put the buzzer on. And as you can see, the legs is bent a little bit on this one. Let me get back the camera off again. Yep. Wrong pliers. Now these buzzers are polarized, and you can see there's a plus sign by that leg, so that will go right there. Okay, now we're going to put the digital display on, and as you can see, there are dots or decimal points on the display. They've also silkscreened that on to the board so you can't get it wrong, which I appreciate. This board is very good for communicating information and giving confidence to a beginner. So I'm very pleased about that, and the pictures in the paper build guide are good too. So I've got one leg locked down. I'll just go through the rest. And now the big fun, which is the dot matrix modules. And as you can see, again, there's a little tab there, and the tab goes with the corresponding rectangle on the PCB. And there we go, the board is done. You know, obviously I can attach the battery box. I don't think I will. And it would just go, the leads for that would just go right here and right here. Again, it's indicated that's ground, that's positive. So I think I'll pass on those. Alright, now as I said, I'm not going to put the battery box on because I don't want to put another set of AAAs into something that I'm going to toss away. So now we're going to put the case together. And it's relatively straightforward. As I said, I took the plastic all off. So I think before I put the case on, I'm going to want to put the keycaps on. So, do we care what colors go where? I don't know. We'll put green here, just 'cause. And yellow here, because I want to put yellow here. And then on the directional pad, I'll make them all blue. So before the case goes on, this is the way it looks. The other thing we have to do, and we often forget this, is we got to peel the protective film off the display packages, because if you don't, you put the case together and you look in there and you'll say, oh, I left the film on, and you'll either take the case back apart to take it off, or you'll be like me and say, who cares, and leave it on. Let's see, how do the screws go together? A few types of fasteners. So let me do it on the purple thing. We're going to stack it like so. Wait, where does the nut go? Oh, the nuts go for the battery box, and we're not going to be using that. So that's the way it's going to go. You're going to have a screw going into this brass spacer, and then the circuit board will go here at the bottom of the brass spacer, and then this thing, which is threaded on one end, and a threaded shaft on one end, and a threaded hole on the other end, will go there. And then we'll take the back panel, put it there, and the screw will go into it. Pretty straightforward, and actually a pretty good design. I've done a lot of kits. I've done a lot of kits out of China with these clear plastic cases, and many of them you can see on my other videos. Look at the builds a power supply video. That case is just, with the captive nuts that aren't really captive nuts, is a real pain, and they do that a lot. That one I encounter, that case design I encounter more than probably any other out of China currently, and it's frustrating because the captive nuts are not really captive. But you can look at those videos and see that. That's one thing that a youngster will get very frustrated with. This, on the other hand, is a very good design for a young builder. Okay, so that's it. That's what it looks like on the front, on that side, with this slot that I have no idea what it's good for. There's the back. There's the other side with the USB connector. There's the top. And there's the bottom. A nice little project. This is a good project. Now, the major test comes, and I'm going to plug it in. I just made sure the power switch is out. Let me zoom in a little bit here. Not much. Okay, we're going to power it up. It's working. And we're playing Tetris. Oops, that's game 2. Oh, I see. So this is showing you there's different games. Let me turn this light off. So game 1 is a Tetris game. Game 2 is a something. Not familiar with that. Game 3 is, looks like, almost like Conway's Life. Game 4 is Space Invaders. You can tell how old I am when graphics like these immediately say, oh, that's Space Invaders. Since if you had ever played with Space Invaders on the Apple II in low resolution graphics, that's about what it looked like. And then 5 is a bunch of numbers going by. I don't know what that means. And then something else. And then a bell. Maybe they're high scores, I don't know. Okay. We're moving it, we're rotating it, we're dropping it. Where's the rotate? I don't know where rotate doesn't seem to be working. I can't play Tetris without being able to rotate. Maybe it's what it, oh, that's pause. Oh, that's rotate. Okay, we're going to press and hold pause and see if it... Okay, I failed miserably. So we're going to power it off and power it back up because I don't want to end the video with me spazzing out on Tetris. One line cleared. Good. So that did pause, but now it's not there. It's pausing. So I'm going to look at the instructions for the games themselves. Interesting. It says if you don't feel very comfortable with the up button, try to change its direction of installation. I don't know what that means. Oh, this has got a slot machine in it too. Okay, so look at it again. So that's the Tetris game. That's the It's a something, I don't know. We'll play this. What do you think? Oh, I'm betting. And I'm losing. I may have won something there. So there you go. It works. It's a nice kit. I think this is a very good kit for advanced beginner to starting apprentice. The hard part is, again, let me turn the light back on. The challenging part is putting that microprocessor support board in, though as you saw, it's not as tough as direct surface mount. So don't worry about it. Just sit with your young builder, and coach them through it. You can look at what I did to do the soldering there. As I said, this kit comes with a QR code that shows their video about soldering the IC chipboard. I have not looked at it, so I don't know the quality of it or what it shows, but it's another resource. And of course, on YouTube, there are a large number of folks who will show you how to solder. But it's a good kit. I like it. I recommend it. Hope you enjoyed the video.